Might be something you want to think about. All right. So do these make sense? Checklists.
Yes.
Hey, let's print out a copy for everybody. Here you go. Let's sit down and see what's important. Let's walk through this step by step. Everybody understand? Check, 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 check. All right, good. Test is over. You get to sit down while you do this test. Any questions whatsoever? All right. Structured walkthrough. Team members walk through different scenarios and they look for what was left out of the checklist test. Also increases awareness because it's a pretty good exercise and it can be kind of fun as long as you have food.
Well, that's always the case, isn't it?
Well, for you guys, that's a requirement. That's not optional. Generally not considered intrusive because you don't have to unplug anything. Simulation. Personnel simulate the actual business continuity plan up to the point in which operations are relocated to a remote site. So you're right on with that. I had the wrong one in my head. Generally not considered intrusive anyway, because again, you're not unplugging anything. Parallel. Circle first bullet point, last couple words. Off-site facility. You actually have to move. You have to get off of your assets and you have to move. Depending on the situation, it may be considered intrusive because you actually have to do stuff. Agree or disagree? Right.
Agree.
Full interruption test. See how they run. See how they run. You will find a lot of problems in this, and my only advice to you is it's not a pointing finger exercise, and people get their little tiny feelings hurt all the time. So watch out for the people with sensitive emotional needs.
Well, you also need to make sure that you can go back to your original configuration.
Oh yeah, right.
It's like when everything falls apart, you got to be able to fall back to your original environment.
Yeah, or else you just create a disaster.
Yeah.
Right? In many cases, I'm sure that's happened. It's definitely an intrusive process because you're pulling the power cord and you see how they run. But again, documentation is key. This should be looked at as a lessons learned exercise, not as a you screwed up. Because people take quick offense to that. What? No, this is not much problem. Whatever. So it all depends on your approach here. Here's where having a little people skill goes a long way. So other types of training, who needs first aid, who's tracking all the people that have first aid training or CPR training, or out here, there's the break room. There's a little tiny sign right outside the break room that has what on it? It's red and white. Anybody notice it?
Yeah, there's the
First aid kit?
What is it called?
There's
AED.
Yeah.
Who knows how to operate one of those thingies?
There are people.
I've seen it in the
there are
movies.
people in here, at Booz Allen who have been trained to operate those, but I was not.
Part of CPR training now.
I did not participate in training.
Nowadays, they didn't always have that. That's kind of a new thing.
Read the instructions on the, just follow the instructions.
Okay. During an emergency, you stop to read the instructions. It's a little late at that point. So you got to do it ahead of time.
There's power up time on the defibrillators.
I'm sorry, but if the guy's choking and seizuring and basically dying right in front of you, you don't want to stop, open the booklet, and go, all right, step one. You might just wake up and choke at that point. What are you doing? I'm dying here. Hurry up.
You don't need it then.
Right, exactly. Right. So use of fire suppression. We've already talked about fire suppression. What about the evacuation route? Anybody notice since I'm new to this town, I happen to notice the hurricane evacuation route this way signs.
Yep, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Head west, young man.
Basically, yeah. Don't go north, go west.
I'm from Baltimore, so we head north.
No, we go west.
All right, shut down equipment would also be there. Consider there. Well, yeah, we're just coming to the end here, right? Yeah, there's a couple more. All right, so emergency runs. Let's look at some of the. You guys know what emergency response is, right? Police, fire, alarms, ADT. Don't even when you're not. All right. So you during all of this, you need to constantly think of your IAC triad and people come first. Any questions? Now we're not done with this one because you're getting the bonus material basically. Here's how this works. I want you to actually look at the documents. I want you to, if you read this and you said, Leo, one day in class. Let's do NIST, Business Continuity Planning Guide. And we come to the
34.
Contingency Planning Guide, 834 here. That's not the one I want. Let's try that one. All right, it's a good idea to go through this and actually know this. I'm a big fan of, hey, you can talk about the documents all day long. Go look at them. You learn more from looking at them sometimes. It's not like we need to make this too difficult. We can probably just hit the index and be done with it. So, contingency planning, right? What's a part of it? The slight differences between business continuity. You may have heard of it referred to as continuity of operations. Or have you heard of anybody updating the crisis communication plan? Right? Critical infrastructure protection. What's that? Anybody want to take a guess?
Your facilities, your main ITN building.
Yeah, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, power, water, sewage, all that stuff.
Yep.
Or you could even do critical infrastructure of the United States, which would still be oil, pipelines, power grids, etc., etc., etc. Incident response for cyber activity, slightly different. Disaster recovery plan in itself, or information security contingency plan, or occupant emergency plan. Who's occupying the building and how do you get them out? So, things that are in a business impact analysis, right? Determine the criticality. What resources are you required to have? Things like that. So contingency plan looks at backing up, recovering. That would be your differential, your fulls, and your incrementals. Backup methods, offsite storage, alternative sites. That's your hot, warms, and your colds. What costs there? Who's going to be doing what? Roles and responsibility. And then all the testing we just talked about are right here. So we can go through them. And they have some templates, and tables too, that are worth looking at. So let me skip through this. Here's your executive summary. This is the big picture here, right? So, hey, develop a policy, and who's going to stand behind that policy?
Management.
Senior management. Then you do your impact analysis. Identify the preventive controls from what you identified in the analysis to the business. Come up with contingency strategies or alternatives.
I think it's good to point out that the business impact analysis needs to be based on your mission and business processes. So you need to figure out what your mission and business processes are, so you know what resources you need for those first.
And somebody should define them.
Yep.
Like who? Who would be a good person for that task?
To define mission and business processes as management.
Yeah, senior up or high as you go, right?
Yeah.
And if you got, I don't exactly know how you guys are divided up as a company, but other companies I've worked for, they have like the name of the company, and then they really have sub-companies underneath of that, or they're autonomous in that sense. Like you have an IT division, but it really is its own consulting company in a sense.
We don't
And so
we don't
there's
have that
different
anymore.
alignments between those different businesses.
Yeah.
You gotta watch out for that. Create your contingency strategy. Go for your plan. Obtain, train, test, exercise, rinse, and repeat. Let's hit a couple of these other sections. Audience, who's it for? Managers, CIOs, ISSOs, architects, admins. These are the people that you'd probably like to have accounted for on your team. Again, IAC triad is addressed. You got controls, continuity of operations. So what do you need? What's in a coop? You do your risk assessments, order of succession. Like, what's the order of succession? God forbid, but if the President of the United States dies, who takes over? Me. All right, after you. Then who takes over?
Vice President.
After the Vice President, then who takes over?
Speaker of the House.
After that, who takes over?
Whoever left.
Secretary of
State, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And there's actually like 20 or 30 orders of
Levels.
succession, like all the way down to like Senate members, and they're pretty low down on the list. God
It
forbid.
includes his staff, which is why one of his staff members is never at a joint session of Congress.
Yeah. Just in case Congress blows up, right?
That's right. You ever notice that?
Yeah, that's true.
Right, so you can see that in some of the stuff that we do, right? So critical infrastructure plan, national infrastructure plan, Homeland Security Presidential Directive 7 also speaks to that. These are all your plans, basically. You have each plan. This is a nice summary here worth reading because you have business continuity, the purpose, who's it applied to, and how does that relate to other things. So going through that works pretty well. The coup, crisis, infrastructure, cyber. Good idea to go through that. So your organization, there's all of these plans wrapped around it. I actually like this picture a whole lot. Pretty well. Coop and DR are right around the edges of that. So you can look at your information to systems. Here you go, the planning, impact analysis. This is the big picture as we walked through before with the maintenance. So what happens in policy planning, right? What happens in contingency planning, right? What happens in testing? You can actually see that. All right. Recovery priorities. So what needs to be recovered and by when? Per line item. And we can prioritize them. So you could say something like budgeting, right? Potential impact of the reputation, congressional insight. So maximum tolerable downtime, 36 hours, a day and a half, basically. And what does it affect? The budget could affect applications through the budget. Maybe it's hosted on a web server. Maybe there's a database of payroll information somewhere, et cetera, et cetera. You can go through that. And then you can even say what's the impact of the IAC triad, a low, a medium, a high, et cetera. Bless you. Recovery times, this is always the sweet spot. You've seen this similar in the terms of false reject rate and false acceptance rate. It's kind of the same thing. It's functionality versus security, and there's got to be a balancing cost into that.
That was called the
Crossover point.
Crossover error rate, you would call it
Crossover error
before,
rate.
but it's always considered the sweet spot. So in this case, the sweet spot is the balance of cost versus functionality.
what we were talking about.
Yeah, type 2 versus
Type 1, type 2.
All right, so I'm not going to go through the whole document here, but you getting the idea?
Yeah.
Here's your hot, warm, cold. Here's your mobile and your mirrored equipment. Come up with all sorts of sites, all sorts of templates, but you don't have to sit and make up this stuff, right? If I copy that and go back to Google, right, and I do a file type. Yeah, PDF. I could or let's do Excel spreadsheet. You can get somebody's, template. I just, search for other templates that are out there, and I just assume use something like this rather than reinvent the wheel, Risks. High, medium, low, probability, and you just go through basically line item by line item by line item. So this is actually I'm going to save this one because I like this one. This would be good to put on the site. All right. So basically you go through everything from the project, the risk, the symptoms. So there's your criteria for activation. What's going to trigger it? When is it low, medium, or high? What's the response? Maybe insurance, maybe just reduce it, right? Or maybe it's outsource, or maybe it's accept the risk. Response strategy or the contingency plans. All of that needs to be figured out.
What did you put in Google to get to that? You put
You really can do anything.
You have to
What
say
I did
just file
specifically
type.
on this last one is,
File type XLS.
file type equals PDF. And so let me back up a little bit. So file type, I can do docs, I can do XLS, I can do PDF. It should change, but it's not. So maybe I want a document. let's say a document that's the same thing. And I just took the section of the document and pasted that title in Google so that I could come up with, there you go, so download a sample contingency plan template. So maybe you want to take this home and apply this to your life. So, I guess to answer your question, file type, it's a Google hacking command.
Okay.
But I also could do like in URL, I could try to find contingency plan budget in the URL. So in this case, it pulled it right out. So there's a couple ways to do it. You can do also, if you wanted to, in title, but you just search for Google hacking commands and you get all these. I'll show you how to use them. But it's pretty helpful. Like for example, you might want to do a file type. Let's say I want PowerPoints for the Certified Wire Network Associates certification. And then I just pull up the PowerPoints to the class. There you go. There's the whole PowerPoints to this whole wireless certification class. So you can get creative with it, I guess is my point. Good stuff?
Great.
Yep.
All right. That was 7, right?
Yep.
Let's see how long these other ones are. We might fit another one in. That's 1 hour. Let me do an accounting for time. So we got 1 hour on the list. An hour and a half. That's 2.5 hours. And really, really quick OPSEC, 40 minutes.
Let's do that one.
Just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, what you're looking at, if we do OPSEC in 40, this last, just so you know, this last one's only 20 minutes. It's just exam prep stuff, how to take the exam. We'll do that one, but that'll just be FYI. So
Or we could leave right now and then that'll give us,
this gets us to noon tomorrow.
yeah.
That's tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Well, the last 3 sessions get us to noon tomorrow.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, assuming,
Then what do you plan on doing tomorrow?
anything you want.
Start over again.
Hi, my name's Leo.
What Leo wants,
And we
Leo
can push
gets.
a little harder now in the last 45 minutes, maybe just iron out another one. That's what we got to do tomorrow, like the study group. But truth be told, normally what happens on